My name is Peter Shire, and I live in Echo Park. I'm a father, a grandfather, a potter, a designer, an artist, a sculptor, a metalworker, and a bon vivant. My wife claims that that's what confuses everybody. And it really has to do with what I'm doing at the moment. You know, you say, well, I'm an artist. And then you say, well, yeah, but what do you do for a living? Well, you know, I work as a carpenter. Which is it? All of these things enter into what I do and the way that I like things. You know, and I like to make the things I like. What makes a person an artist, and where does that come from? Everybody wants to know, and I want to know too. When we were in elementary school, there was a whole group of kids that were art kids. We had these identities that we took on very early. They took a group of us and sent us to Chenard on Saturdays. You know, it's sort of like heroin. You know, the first time's free. You know, they wanted to get us in there and smell the paint. Chenard was fantastic. It smelled of oil paint. It was ground into the boards and the charcoal and everything. I got involved in doing ceramics in high school. That was really an interesting and necessary thing for my sanity. In the meantime, I went to LACC because my mom and my art teacher, Mr. Scatia, decided that I should get a little bit of academics. I got kicked out of all my art classes. Yeah, I got kicked out. It was an honor. There's an independence and a free thought that came from my mother, and it came from the terrain of this neighborhood. So they said, well, you guys, you got to go to Chenard and get it over with. My dad went to art school. My dad was a natural talent, and he went to the Art Students League as a 12-year-old and 14-year-old, and to the Beaux-Arts. There's a very strong drive for me to do what he didn't do, and to do that for him, and that's to survive and continue as a full-time artist. Art is for everybody. Furniture, pottery, things that people understand as everyday objects and part of their life. And so if the image and the composition and maybe some of the, shall we call it art language, is included in that or hidden in that or laid on top of it, then they're brought in. The idea of making the mugs is very upsetting to the art world because it's a product, and it's a product at an affordable price, which is very, very much a political action on my part and involved with this idea of inclusion and shall we say, culture for everybody. Maybe where this conversation is going is the aspect of my multiple interests being sort of putting me in no specific camp, and so none of them quite fold me to their bosoms, which is good because I early on took the Groucho position. I wouldn't want to become a member of any club that would have me as a member. Kayne Griffin Corcoran. This gallery's off the map. No sign on the front. That's my kind of place. And it's just fantastic. It's the alchemist's den. You come off the street and you enter into another world. And it isn't a world of hubris and harshness of sales techniques and so forth. A lot of things are about reaction and about things that I love and hate, and taking them in and chewing them up and digesting them and owning them. Color, and lots of it. No, you're not supposed to do this. And the minute you hear that, you're sure as hell going to do that. The oldest thing in the show was a drawing from 1981. All the three-dimensional objects were very recent. Well, the teapots are impossible. Well, of course they're sculptures, and part of that drive is enforced by the crazy hydraulics. Most of them will actually pass fluid and pour fluid out of them. Well, it started with teapots being a ceramic object that's part of the litany, the catalog of things one can make in ceramics, and maybe being the final page, the ultimate object, with the imperatives of how it pours, how it lifts. It also is a symbolic object, and that's what gets back to the questions we're asking about political drive. It becomes very symbolic of a type of propriety and ritual, and it crosses socioeconomic lines, especially in the past, so it becomes parts of every culture's culture. It, by and large, is really presented as an activity for the upper middle class. It becomes somewhat of a questioning about how this group of people has taken an image and really overwhelmed it, and also making fun of them. And it enters into ideas of uselessness and of absurdity and humor. I guess I could be overt and put slogans on the sides of them or something, but I think the real subversive activity is in making teapots and engaging people in sculptural objects via a little bit of subterfuge. The drawings are the old way, when we believed and acknowledged that drawing is the core, drawing's the spine. It's the transmitter of ideas, of the immediate connection of the brain and the heart and the hand. For about 25 years, a large part of my work and artistic endeavor is and was public work. As human beings, we don't know where we came from. Yet we come here and we are this, this fantastic matrix of cells and vessels and unexplainable moving parts. And where does it come from? We don't know. One of the things about being an artist, we imagine things that aren't there, that have never been there, and then make them happen, which is a form of making something out of nothing. dogs bark, but the caravan moves on.